ever wanted to switch to Linux but felt overwhelmed, this is the video for you. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you how to install Linux Mint, one of the easiest and most beginner-friendly Linux operating systems available in 2025. No experience required. Let's get started. Linux Mint is a free, open source operating system. It's designed to be simple, fast, and familiar, especially for Windows users. It's stable, lightweight, and works great on both old and new computers. If this is your first time installing Linux, Linux Mint is one of the best places to start. Before we install Linux Mint, here's what you'll need: a computer or laptop, a USB flash drive, an internet connection, and around 20 minutes of your time. Installing an OS can erase your data, so if you have important files on the device you want to install this on, make sure you back them up first. Head to the official Linux Mint website and download the latest Cinnamon edition. Cinnamon is the most popular version and the best choice for beginners. I'll have the link in the description. Now that we've got it downloaded, we've got to create a bootable USB. So the next thing you got to download is a program called Rufus. This program is going to be what allows us to turn the USB into a live bootable install for Linux Mint. So once you have it open, select the Linux Mint ISO, choose your USB drive, and just hit start. Once it's done, you can safely eject the USB. Next, you're going to want to shut down your PC and plug in the live USB we just created. Once that's done, power it on, and you're going to need to open up the boot menu. This is usually done by pressing F12, F10, escape, or delete during startup. Once in the boot menu, select your USB drive, and Linux Mint will load in live mode. Now that we're in the USB, we're going to hit Start Linux Mint. Just hit enter on that, and this is going to boot us into the Linux Mint live mode, which you can install from, but you can also use it to test out the operating system, see if you like it, dislike it, and just overall mess around with it for a while. And now we're fully booted into the live USB. You can use this just like the OS. Internet works right out the box, even on the bootable USB. We're connected through Ethernet, so don't have to set up any Wi-Fi or anything like that. But you can take this time to decide if you really want to install the operating system or not. You can mess around with it, take a look at the file explorer, see what you've got going on. If you click this, it's a very Windows experience on Linux Mint. You can see all the applications it's going to come with. Once Linux Mint loads, you're just going to want to click on Install Linux Mint. It's going to be on the desktop, top left corner. Next, we're going to want to choose our language. Going to go with English. And as well as the keyboard layout. And normally this just makes things a little easier. I would check on the install multimedia codecs. Now, for most people, if you're coming to Linux Mint from Windows and you have important files on there, what you'll see is it'll say install Linux Mint alongside Windows. I would go with that option, especially if you're trying to wean yourself from Windows to go into Linux. You got to give yourself a transitionary period, so I'd go with that option. I'm not going to cover that option in this tutorial though, and I highly recommend going the erase disk and install Linux Mint route. This will give you a fresh install with nothing on the drive, but if you have any important files on your drive currently, make sure you go boot back up into Windows or whatever you're running and remove those onto a different drive so you don't lose any of your important files. For our purposes here, we're going to go erase disk and install Linux Mint, and then we're just going to hit install now. And if you are looking to dual boot Windows and Linux, that's going to be covered in a different video. I'll link it in the description. And then click continue. Select your time zone. Create a username and password. Let's go ahead and hit continue. This should start the installation. And now you can just sit back and wait till the installer finishes. It'll just take a few minutes. Now that the installer is all finished, all we got to do is restart the system and remove the installation medium, the USB. So just remove the USB stick and hit enter. And there you have it. Welcome to Linux Mint. It's now installed. And once you're logged in, um, you'll get this screen saying welcome to Linux Mint, and it'll take you through all the startup questions you might have, all the regular setup stuff that you would do. So, we'll hit let's go, and it's going to tell you some of the apps that are in here. So, for example, driver manager, if you've got proprietary drivers that you need to have installed, for example, NVIDIA drivers, you're going to want to launch the driver manager because that'll get you the proper drivers. You don't have to go, you don't have to open Firefox, you don't have to open whatever browser you got. Um, this will automatically check and find out which drivers you need, and you don't have to do anything for it. Up next, I'd recommend using the update manager. This will just go through the entire system and ensure that everything on the OS is fully up to date. And as you can see, we're doing all of this, you know, without the use of the command line. Which yes, you can use the command line, and it's totally fine. Um, but I'm using this as an example, especially if you're coming from Windows to Linux, that the command line is not needed. If you're just looking to switch and you don't want to use the terminal, then you don't have to do that. So an update, we'll get back to that after. So here you got the system settings. You can mess with those, firewall, software manager. So the software manager is interesting because that's going to work similar to it's essentially working as similar to the package manager, which you would use in the terminal, but it's fully visual. It uses GUIs. So so you don't need to do anything in the terminal once again. And here in the software manager, you've got all kinds of things you can use. You can download Discord, and you can just look through here, see what you want, um, whatever app you're trying to use, and you can look at that in your own time. I hope this helped you get a grasp of how to install Linux Mint. And if you found this tutorial helpful, if you could drop a like, drop a comment, it helped me out with the algorithm. And, I'd like to see your thoughts on the video. Thanks so much. See you guys in the next one.